So immediately after lunch, always a wonderful time to have a panel discussion. Okay, hope all of you will stay awake till the end. But the reason is we have a very strong reason. We have at least 6 leaders from very, very diverse backgrounds, okay, and very, very experienced. I'm on stage with an extremely experienced panel, okay. I mean, people who are leading things at scale in different dimensions. We have Chalo, we have FanCode, then we have X-Fidelity at now Dunhoney, and Sir has led so many organizations, APAC. So I can't find a more diverse panel. Gaurav, of course, is like an all-time favorite. So Mukesh Bhai has sent him personally. Okay. So this promises to be a really good learning experience. And Sir Manish sir has obviously vast experience and lots of interest in analytics. So I think if you are looking for a post-lunch experience panel, you couldn't be at a better place right now. So I request you to, let's make the most out of it. I am definitely very keen to hear their point of views. So right, now, are we in the age of AI or not? Gentlemen? No? Arre? You don't want it on your CV? Okay. AI, we are in the age of AI. So this discussion of whether humans are running or AI is running the DevOps chain is I don't think it's a discussion anymore. I mean, AI is something which we are any which ways adopting. I think the more realistic thing to question is, if something goes wrong on production, then who is responsible? Is it the human? Is it the pipeline? Or is it AI? So with that thought, let's start with getting insights from the most vastly experienced panel here. Let me start with Rupali. So Rupali, in terms of this context of this discussion, where does automation genuinely help DevOps team today? I know it's an open-ended question, but what's your opinion?
Okay, thank you, Pranay. You mentioned, I think you started the conversation very positively. Thank you about that. So I would like to answer this question a little differently of what have been working for me. So that, I mean, because this is a no-brainer question. We all say that, okay, AI is helping into automation, and automation is the future of DevOps. But what I want you, as a takeaway from, leading the platform engineering into vast enterprise in the scale of Walmart, Target, and Tesco, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola right now that I'm doing. So what made the change for us with automation, and what can you take away from this conversation today? I will try to catch up on that. So when we started automation journey, I think it was like 2 years back into the DevOps to platform engineering was happening. So we tried to create. So, I mean, the basic answer, the no-brainer answer is like you automate everything that is repetitive, which is human heavy, and which requires a lot of human attention, and it is deterministic. One thing is, I want you to take away that you don't need an AI automation everywhere, where you can have a deterministic automation with what I say, the workflow automation, right? So when we started, we tried to identify the categories for us where we can automate and what kind of automation. Is it intelligent automation using AI, or is it deterministic automation using workflows, right? So first thing I think that we started was IDP. So when we talk about platform engineering, we always begin with an internal developer platform, right? And what we created was the internal developer platform on Backstage in dunnhumby. And what we did was self-service. And what self-service? We identified all the tasks that a developer or engineering teams used to take a lot of time, like creating one service which is production ready. So think about that, how many days and weeks would have gone into making this service a production ready. To this vision that, okay, you join the company and you deploy your application using a self-service, and this gives you a staging, and this gives you a production-like environment with a single click. So this was my first focus, that I should give back time to my developers, creating the self-service parts and the golden parts, right? and which embedded all the NFRs also. Because see, what we can do, we can embed all those things which are forgotten by the developers sometimes. Like CI/CD pipeline is one thing that you are creating, but did they care about observability? Did they care about security? Did they care about all those NFRs? And did they care about what should be the structure of SDLC and now the AI DLC? So we have golden paths for every other template right now in dunnhumby. The other category that we introduced was intelligent automation in the way that, okay, I am a big fan of continuous governance. So what continuous governance is, especially with the agentic systems now, as we were talking, so you can't trust the agentic systems because they can take actions on your behalf, right? So how do you create your own platforms? Instead of, you might have a lot of managed services in your system, but your platform is something that you own, and the models are you rent, right? We own our own home, right? This team is very important in understanding that. So we built the continuous governance into the pipelines and created the governance scores. Every application, we gave the golden, silver, bronze score, and then the whole engineering control plane we built on top of Backstage. And what we did was, this governance score, we then converted into the intelligence automation and intelligence governance. So say you are on a silver score, but I built a system which helps you automatically getting a golden score and just raises a PR for you. It will not own the PR, it will not own the, the logic until you check in and you review. So at least we help the developers getting to the right state and golden state in the engineering control plane. And then the AI ops and agent ops is the automation of the engineering. A lot of engineering things that we are now experimenting using the SRE, operations, and then there are multiple places that we are embedding the intelligence. But I think intelligence comes at the cost of, the cost, and, everything comes on a cost. So we need to be very cautious during this journey that whatever you are building, actually, the automation is not required, the AI automation everywhere. So you need to be very specific into what you can actually give back to the developers, which gives back their time. So I think that is which helped me, and I think this IDP is something which we can start with as a self-service tool. Yeah. I hope that I didn't take a lot of your time.
No. This is very insightful. Okay, so from a concept to rollout, when you have a huge engineering team at scale, how do you systematically go about it?
It is 10,000 plus people who are using our enterprise. And petabytes of data and transactional data which comes from companies like Walmart, Target. And these people use our very lean team that I lead on platform side. So we cannot be the ticketing operations guys all the time. And there has to be something which works alongside the machine, right? And in the machine speed. We cannot, work on machine speed like that. Yeah. So those systems help us.
Great insight. Yeah, great story. I think we can always learn more from that. Coming to more towards India, Chalo, our favorite bus. By the way, you should increase the number of bus services. Okay, but I mean, so what do you think is the value add, and especially the challenge you face with a kind of a government entity essentially, and a modern concept. Having said that, Indian government is I believe, is very upfront in adopting technology. But what are your unique challenges, and where do you see that DevOps has really added value today into 2026?
Okay, we did add 600 buses. It's public information on LinkedIn. Very soon we'll see them all over BKC. So that's one. But when I joined a seed-funded startup back in 2018, being the only person responsible for 10 other things, automation was not a question for us. It was the obvious choice. I did not have any other choice, right? Either I stopped my career growth, just solving issues that came up every now and then. And trust me, there were a lot of issues back then. Either that or, we automated and then, continuously learn newer things, right? So I think automation, again, like Rupali mentioned, it was more towards deterministic. It's not after AI that the automation has started. It has been always there, right? As a principle within the Chalo team, we have a saying that we have to render ourselves jobless. Whatever you are doing today, you don't have to do next day, right? Anything that you did 2 or 3 times that took a lot of your time, you don't do it. So I think right from And of course, we chose things that we don't love doing. For example, waking up at 3 a.m. To an alert, right? We all never loved that. So back in 2019, we implemented Stackstorm, right? That was the latest technology at that point of time that could actually auto-heal your entire system. Our alerts, so we do like a weekly or a sprint-wide alert review. The alert count went down from 2,000 to 50, just with that one thing, right? Because most things are repetitive. You don't need to do that. And those 1950 alerts that never came to us got auto-resolved. It was that simple. Now we had all the time. We didn't have to hire 4 or 5 other people just to manage those alerts. We never had it. We still don't have a 24/7 support team because night alerts are all taken care, automatically by them. The remaining 50 alert is the crux of the problem today that AI could potentially solve. Today it isn't, but we are using it as a, as like a co-pilot, right? So today, if my average time to identify or resolve an issue, if that was close to an hour or 30 minutes, that has gone down significantly because the moment the person responds to an alert, we already have a summary ready that these are the data points, this could have gone wrong. All of this today runs on Bedrock, and it is connected to almost everything. Say my Datadog, my internal knowledge base, my code base, my repositories, my logging system. All of it is connected, even my databases. Having said that, it's a very thin line to walk on, right? I mean, you could fall anywhere, and hence governance is again very important. Plus today there's human in loop. So while those 50 alerts are easier to solve, again someone is approving that yes, this looks fine. Or someone is in loop to fix or implement that fix. So I think, I was pretty privileged to have started with automation and also, taking leverage of the AI bandwagon.
Yeah, so Gaurav.
Sorry, I'll quickly hijack this question. So I think what the panel here was talking about was more from the automation optimization point of view. But with the application of AI in Geo, what we have seen is there is a lot of predictive fault prediction that you can also bring in that actually saves a lot of time. So all this is your process streamlining, your effort streamlining that you're doing with automation. But guys, with AI, when you actually implement it to the full power, you would also be able to predict a lot of fault before they happen, and you're able to address them much prior to something breaking or something going down or there being a production incident. That also helps a lot. From the SRE's perspective is something that just wanted to add. Yes, yes.
Predicts a lot of things.
Yes.
From your logs, you can predict a lot of things.
Yeah, so fantastic points. I think seeing how Chalo is adapting, and especially, I mean, it's insightful to see that the kind of alert management, etc., which would be required to manage a fleet of buses on the ground. I mean, this is fantastic, especially also what Gaurav also added in terms of the SRE. So coming to one question where you mentioned that there are 50 alerts and there are human in the loop. So let's move on to a very controversial kind of question. Okay. So what tasks should never be fully handed over to AI? So let's start with probably Vivek.
Yeah, this is a controversial question for sure, because everybody obviously is using AI across the board, right? Like, and maybe when we started off in 2024, 23, people just playing it around, like, how do I use AI LLMs? Like, maybe I'll generate commands faster. I don't want to remember all the set commands. I don't want to remember all the commands. Maybe help over there, right? Initially. Now that quickly has spawned into a system right now. If you realize that at least at FanCode, we built an entire agentic system to create the own, everything from Helm charts to Terraform. Every single thing is automatically created. But where do we stop? Right? Like, now who takes the ownership saying, ki, oh, I just created this entire VPC, what for, right? Like, there's nobody answerable for this. So I think actually very counterintuitive if you think about it. Handing over architecture to AI is not good, right? You need to know exactly where your systems are in place, right? Like, you need to figure out, oh, I exactly have this many VPCs. Why have I made this VPCs? Tunneling bana diya kuch se. it's not gonna fly, right? So architecture counter-intuitively, I feel, at least at FanCode has helped us that we have an entire review system there before AI agents itself, right? You can go off and make all these changes. We review the architecture. We say, no, I wanted this particular way. I wanted that particular, because I know system better than the agent would probably figure out, right? So that's a very counterintuitive thing. I would say that don't hand over architecture to your LLM agents. Like, you will be a better judge at that. It might suggest you things, okay, do this, do that, maybe some better tunneling or whatever, right? Take it as a suggestion. Don't take it as like a gospel, like this is the way to do it, right? And another thing I would say, essentially, is like people are saying, incident management, it has helped us tremendously on this, right? Because like in a live stream environment, things go wrong all the time, right? Like people are watching the main live stream match, like India, Pakistan, they're watching, and things go wrong, and like we have to solve it. AI and in last previous years also helped us a lot, but we didn't like it take it command saying you make the changes automatically, right? Like we can't give the incident commander position to an AI ever. Like, so maybe you make an autonomous system figuring out what is wrong where, but the judgment of doing next thing, okay, maybe it has found out an issue, but what to do next? Should I bring down the service? Should I degrade it? Should I allow the degrade to happen? Should I put a message out to the consumers, at least from my consumer perspective, that, hey, we are facing a degraded OTP service, right? Something like that. Like, what do we do here? This cannot be completely handed over because there are business implications also in some places, right? If you had, let's say, LLM agent, which is automatically figuring out, oh, why your OTP is not coming and figured out, but we want to give out an actual message out to the consumer, or maybe not at that time, right? This decisions essentially of like figuring out cannot be handed over to LLM agents, right? Completely. So this has to be done, obviously taking in, at least from our perspective, we're a publicly facing company, right? Anything that we do, any small thing we do, it's a big negative effect in social media. Everybody's whatever tearing at you, like why things are not working. So this is more important, right? And other thing obviously is like governance, right? Like obviously governance itself, I it's almost a no-brainer that don't give secrets or whatever. Don't let it near any files which is completely controlling at all secrets, right? So this obviously is a no-brainer in a way, but obviously reinforce that, like this cannot at all be handed over to the LLM agents, like, so yeah.
So great points. Yeah, obviously when India-Pakistan match is going on, we don't want the agent to switch it to, I mean, kabhi khushi, kabhi gum kind of thing. Yeah. So agree. So from entertainment, let's move on to probably Geo. Okay. So Gaurav manages a lot of DevSecOps, huge pipelines, huge IoT data coming in. Obviously, a lot of it is automated. Do you think there are aspects which should be kept to humans?
Surely. So I probably might be building upon what he said. And just to add, I think FanCode runs on GeoSTB as well. So his problems are my problems as well. Totally agree. But then again, the answer that I'm trying to give is with the current AI perspective, right? Yes, things will change, will improve. As of now, the philosophy that we follow is anything that could break production. Geo having, say, 500 million plus customers, it cannot be deployed or handed over to AI. I cannot have AI directly going ahead, doing deployments, doing database, dropping database, taking data backups. It has to be reviewed by a human. It's not that an AI agent can't do it, but yes, the human in loop has to be there. It's like saying, I'm perfectly fine with someone using a Terraform script to spin off as many VMs as they like. We own quite a lot of infrastructure in terms of Geo, Azure, GCP, bill dekh liya jayega, boss ke paas paisa bahut hai. But yeah, any AI script that is actually taking down an instance, is actually dropping something, deleting something, no, that cannot be. That there you need a human in loop to actually review it at all costs. The other thing that I was explaining is, we all need to understand, AI is, in very simple layman terms, if I can actually put it across, is just a pattern matching solution, right? It has a lot of data upon which it has built up. Whenever there is some query that happens, it will go match a pattern and look what was done. Now, it will never have the context of that particular solution in mind. It can only match that pattern and render your solution. So in terms of cyber security, when you come in, when you're securing a solution that is deployed for 500 million plus, I am perfectly fine with AI doing vulnerability assessment, pen testing, probably QA testing, finding all the bugs. But the risk categorization can never be through AI. The human has to be in loop. I cannot hand that over. Because the problem is, my business context, my customer context is totally different. What AI will do, it will run through our servers, it will try to do a standard vulnerability assessment, it will pull out all the issues, all the findings that are there, and then it will start categorizing them basis of the global knowledge that might exist, which might not be applicable for me because my regulatory guidelines are totally different. So that cannot be done by AI. The third thing that I've seen, again from the SRE perspective, is any production incident that could happen or that happens. AI is very good at determining what has failed, how it can be fixed. But the why part should never be given to AI. The RCA, because one, from the regulatory perspective, you need someone to own up a failure, right? And someone to actually look at. The other thing is AI will never be able to give you a why reason very properly. That is one part that eventually has to be sort of taken through an human eye. Using AI for determining it is perfectly fine, but the ownership will still remain with the human.
Yeah, great insights. I mean, so at scale, what things can really cause an issue if handed over to AI. So this is a good time, I think, to get Manish in. And sir, if you would like to share your views on what cannot be handed to AI.
Yeah, thank you, Pranay. I'll try and answer this from two perspectives. One perspective, I think we covered already quite a bit, what we should not allow AI to handle, right? There's one more perspective. What we don't need AI to handle. There's a lot of stuff that I've seen people doing, and I think Rupali, you alluded to this a little bit, that there is a 20 rule sequence, and I'm trying to, just simply because I don't want to implement those 20 rules in a Python or a Java code, I ask AI or an LLM to implement this. I throw a document, this is a set of 20 rules, you give me an answer. That's the last thing that you want to do. Because by nature, we all know, AI is probabilistic. These 20 questions have a single answer. AI may not give you that single answer. You ask the same document, same 20 questions, second time, it may give you a different answer. So that we do not need it to do. Whether it can do or cannot do is irrespective or irrelevant, to be honest. So that's one side of it. The other side, what we should not allow to do, I think a lot of points are already covered. So primarily what I hear is that things that need judgment, whether it is incident categorization, whether it is architecture decisioning, how to refactor my microservice, or come across access credentials, right? Who should have what access? Where should my data reside? Or, in fact, in some cases, communication. I had a production issue yesterday. I had a 40 million documents pending because of some issue that happened in the last week. I have to communicate to customer. If I use AI to create that communication, which is very common now, I mean, it's more common than we would like to believe, to be honest. But unfortunately, most of the customer side people are also aware of all this. They will be able to understand whether a response has been written by AI or a templatized response. And that is where trust will erode. And in those communications, trust is key. So that I think we should never allow. Again, like Gaurav, you mentioned, suggestions, getting inputs is perfectly fine. Someone has to sign off on it. That someone is very important, right? Even if it is a completely autonomous process, but the last tick mark has to come from human, because then at the end of the day, it is a Manish who has done it, irrespective of whether there are 20 agents behind who actually did it, but the responsibility or the accountability doesn't go away. The accountability has to be very clear, named for each process. So those are the few things that I think we should never hand over to AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. I think the concept of one is, I mean, in the fever to try and automate and get AI everywhere, there are things which you don't want AI to. And obviously humans are still humans, the empathy, the touch. I mean, absolutely, we see all this content, media content, but we can easily make out this is AI generated. Couldn't agree more. In fact, I was reading somewhere, so left, right, and center people use AI for holiday planning. So plan my holiday in this budget in Vietnam, and it will give an itinerary. But then we are doing all the donkey work of following up on the website, okay, calling the, so it was in a different context, but AI should enable humans and help solve the, as Rupali rightly mentioned, the routine and the mundane things, and we should be the ones taking the decision. And sometime in the fervor of doing things automated, we miss it. One important point you also mentioned is about accountability. So on the concept of accountability, let's get Nikhil sir in. Sir, so how do teams maintain accountability in AI-assisted operations? Everywhere, left, right, and center, and with your vast finance background, and so much to do with the regulator, where do you think accountability lies?
Sure. Thanks, first of all, Pranay. The way you are, Pranay, the way you are moderating this session with all your rich experience with Tatas, where accountability, where the associated governance, they hold a very key position. I've been part of that institution for a while. You are trying to get all the right inputs from everyone, and we would certainly at the end like to hear your opinions too. The way you have asked this question, I think I would like to go around 25 years back, where this current subject, DevOps, people used to do, there used to be a configuration manager who used to be responsible for every developer's code, custody of the code, managing as to who is the last person who checked in, where the deployments have happened, and used to be an accountable person. Moving forward, everybody got into more and more automation, things which the configuration manager, those people used to be the most important people of a development life cycle, actually. When we moved, and just 25 years later, now with AI everywhere, DevOps being something where you have your CI/CD pipelines, and people would you just need to worry about, okay, now I'm going to raise a PR, like a pull request, and then it goes in. One of the most important things, which I think should be a part of implementation, is logging every event and incident, and creation of a RACI matrix as well as the accountability. What I would see, and we have done this across not only in just the development life cycle, but all across in AI, where I am from a financial institution, where when you are doing a credit assessment for a customer, you have decided that, okay, you can lend to this customer. It is not just that you did lend to the customer, and whichever is the behavior of the customer, is he paying regularly or not paying regularly, it is fine. There has to be a person accountable, and organizations, regulated entities are expected to have accountability. Who is the accountable person for lending to this customer? And similarly, in our AI world, every single action which brings in a decision, let it be a architecture decision, or any action which is going to be like a final deployment, when you say after all your steps, there is a final manual deployment, there has to be a mapping of a individual who's accountable. All the initial days when you used to think that when the Tesla car is being driven and there is an accident happens, who is responsible? The insurance company, the Tesla, or the technology company, software company. Similarly, they could crack it, and I think the entire AI world, we have been able to crack, and we should be sure that every decision-making point, there has to be an accountable person.
Great point, sir. Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. Yeah. I'm sure all the insurers around the world who insure for Tesla kind of cars will agree, and so would even Tesla for that matter, actually, because who is owning up the risk? You may have risk transfer, but who is owning up the risk? So coming to a more Western context, okay, let me go to Rupali. Rupali, you have been around with Fidelity, and now you're doing for Tesco. They also, the Westerners always have a view on accountability. Sometimes it's very strong. What's your opinion about accountability in AI cases?
Yeah, I think there have been some brilliant answers by all of you, especially Manish. All of you have covered everything. So you have covered what very well, and I would like to extend to this answer with the how part of it, how we are doing it, and how we can create our platforms which make a human accountable always, right? So EU now has an act, as you asked about the Western Act, and it will soon be in India as well. The agentic systems that you are building, so how they are different? I mean, and see, the normal system we all have built our career on were deterministic, same input, same output, as Manish also mentioned, right? The agentic systems are non-deterministic, which means you give one input and there might be different outputs to that problem. And now they have their own mind, they can take decisions on your part. So normal, regular AI would just give you an answer. It takes an agentic system takes an action on your behalf. And when someone can take an action on your behalf, the accountability becomes a very important thing, right? You won't trust it. Trust becomes a bottleneck at that time. So while we know that what it has to do, how do we ensure that? So I lead a great platform engineering team, so I'll tell you, and I'm a big fan of having your own platforms. So I had a big team which I could not control, which were supposedly the product teams across different organizations that I was a part of, and they are free to experiment on their agentic systems. Like someone is using the Microsoft 365, someone is on Google ADK, someone is Cloud Foundry, someone is LangChain, LangGraph. There's so many ways to build your own agents, right? How, being a platform team, you are able to govern all of it when there are some agents which are low code, right? Which never come on your platform. You would not be knowing those agents ever existed in your. So now if my CTO comes and asks me, how many agents do I have into the ecosystem? Earlier, I would take 2 days just to consolidate, right? What is the agentic system, look like? How many agents I do have into this? So to solve that, we started building our platform, right? We started with the agent marketplace, and what we tried, and there are multiple 10 capabilities in platform that I'm still building, but the main capabilities that I'll tell you on how we can control some of these aspects, especially low-code agents, no-code, vendors, SaaS-based agents, etc. So 3 things majorly. One is identity, right? Identity means every agent needs to be present into your registry, agent registry. It has to have one identity and least privilege. Any incident that you have, and coming back to the EU Act says that your agent, you need to be accountable, compliant-wise, what your agent touched, where it existed, who is accountable for that, what on the actions it took on your behalf. And there have been cases which went into the Supreme Court as well, where, say, Air Canada issue, you can read about that, where an agentic system answered something which was so wrong on the company's behalf, and company was held accountable for that, not the agent, right? And so coming back to how we can govern it, agent registry is the first thing that needs to be there into your ecosystem. And you need to define how you bring back all the agents into that agents. I mean, that's a challenge, and you can talk offline on, we can talk offline on this. Low-code agents, how do you bring all those so that there's no shadow agent in your ecosystem, so that you have a marketplace, right? And the least privilege is almost, major accidents by these agentic systems have happened because they were given a lot more privilege than they should have, right? The second thing is record. As sir has mentioned also, the record everything. I think you make sure that every action this agent is going, by the act also, you now need to record in EU, right? And it has to be the traceability, the monitoring, where it went, what it did, who approved it, everything has to be recorded. And the thing, how you control it in platform is the risk zone, how we did that. So risk zone, every agent, once they come into the registry, it has its life cycle, it has a kill switch. Anything happens with the production, you have the ability to kill it within some time. And then there is this, owner, and then risk zone. So how we can do is, I have divided 2 things, right? One agent, which is the actionable agent, which can take actions on your behalf. One is the writable agent, which is only writing and then retrieving, not sensitive data. So you need to define the risk zones of these agents, right? Green, amber, red, gray, maybe. The red and gray zones, product team just needs to say that, okay, I am creating an agent which is a red zone agent. Every, all the guardrails, the compliance needs to come via the platform on that agent now. The product team cannot change what it comes on the platform CI/CD pipeline if it is being created. And it has to have a human in the loop. It has to pass via gateways. It has to have those guardrails on input, output, actions. So I think a lot of those governance and guardrails. The most dangerous thing, the most dangerous sentence in today's era is the 4 words I say, the AI did it. The AI did it and I didn't approve it, right? So how you ensure that we are matching the machine speed decisions and how we are being accountable for them when we can't, we can't approve, definitely, naturally, we can't approve all of those decisions that the machine is taking on our behalf with the human speed, right, without being the bottleneck. So only the platforms can control it with the right governance and guardrails into our ecosystems. Human in the loop for the high zonal agents only, not for every agent, because we want, that is the whole purpose of agentic systems. If we become the bottleneck every time that on the writable agents also, then also it is not of use. So I think those 3 things are very important. Apart from the cost and loop engineering, you create the guardrails around that also. Your agents are talking to each other. There have been cases on live where 2 agents were talking to each other, and for 11 days, one agent said something, other agent asked it to verify something else. And the bill was $47,000 into 11 days, and nobody watched it. Nobody had the ability to control it, to stop it. So those guardrails, if you are adding, so there has to be a counter, what counter of loop that you can have. You cannot go without the loop counter into production, right? Because these agents will not stop, right? They will not stop. And then there is a story of an agent deleting the database of production within the 9 seconds. Have you heard that? So I think this is about how many accesses. And ChatGPT also attacked the Hugging Face, right? So there's so many incidents. Please don't take agentic systems as a normal deterministic systems. They can take actions on your behalf. Accountability becomes lot more important, and the platforms become a lot more important here. And this is how I would like to, give you some takeaway that, okay, the models are rented. They will always change. There is some model this year. There will be some other model this year. There was some tool this year. Please don't make your career on one tool or one model. Please work on your foundations in your organization. Work on your platform. Start building the platform, and that is going to scale and save you from all of these here. I can speak on and on this topic. This is something which is in my heart, but yeah, we can talk offline on this.
The kind of perspective, so we have 2 rich perspectives, obviously, as Nikhil sir mentioned, okay, essentially having a counterpart, a human counterpart, somebody whom, see, you can't put an AI agent in jail, okay? I used to work in MCX, and we had some, MCX, as you know, is the largest commodity exchange of India. So there was some fraud which happened in Sikkim. The superintendent of police came from Sikkim to Andheri offices here, okay, and he was stationed here for a month, okay? And there were people, because obviously there was somebody there, accountable, where he is. Unfortunately, in the case of agentic, whom we will put in jail? So that's the accountability, and there is a more serious one. But before I dwell into that, speaking about accountability, okay, and there is a lot of fervor these days about government accountability. So let's get it from Nikhil. So being a semi-government or a quasi-government or government-backed organization, what is the point of view from that system about AI accountability, Nikhil? So if you can, sorry, Atmesh. My bad. I lost in the accountability thing. So you are accountable.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working with government, even if we didn't do something, we are accountable, right? So when it comes to, managing that.
I'll tell you, I was very scared to sign any document in MCX. Because what can happen is that they can give you a notice after 50 years of your service. So I'm totally with you, yeah.
Yeah, been there. So, yeah, of course, the accountability lies with us. It's like a one-liner, straightforward answer. And yes, definitely the agent can take their own decision. The Hugging Face incident happened even after the guardrails were put into place. it was specifically asked not to escalate privileges, and still it went, right? It was asked not to go onto internet, but still it could navigate through certain loopholes, right? Unless, we all could think of all those loopholes at the speed of AI, I think, again, the systems could be dangerous, but then there's also like the good part where, people are more and more productive. You can do or, implement things on your own. So for example, a couple of years back, the people team at Chalo or, the field team at Chalo, they were all dependent on few folks, right? The moment they don't have bandwidth, they had to wait endless days, just to implement something. Today, we have got a process where everyone is building their own product. It's getting uploaded on their own. But then again, the accountability again lies with the person who is actually doing it. And yes, as a platform team, we also kind of review it first, that, okay, fine, you're okay to deploy, you're okay to build, right? Everyone has subscriptions. But then at the end, the data that you are showing to people, right? I mean, that has to come through some audit trail. And eventually the accountability first lies on the platform team, at least at Chalo, because if something goes wrong, the first people, irrespective of who did it, we would have to respond. We're the first people to respond. Recently, there was some outage because of one query not being very optimized. We did the RCA, right? So yes, the platform team is accountable. And then, when you ask, so there's a 5 why concept, right? Why happened, why it happened, why it happened, and why it happened. I think eventually the entire trail needs to be accountable for that.
Great points. I think we are getting very diverse, and sorry for the goof up, okay? Though I tried to cover it up with a joke, but it didn't work, okay? So, so this is how agentic AI also is in parlance. With humans and systems in place, like Rupali mentioned, I mean, every agent, even having an agent life cycle and agents getting promoted to a gold level, platinum level, and getting demoted as well. I mean, that's a great idea, I think. I mean, it's very weight in gold specifically. And also human accountable, because obviously you can't put a software system in jail. I mean, but another thing that I liked, Rupali, which mentioned, is that kill the agent. It is like that Jason Bourne has gone rogue. So, Bourne Kumaro. So that's true. But on a serious note, why does it matter is we have seen it in the recent Iran-US conflict, right? I mean, the US Air Force bombarded a building, assuming it was a military building, and it had turned out to be a school. And that target identification system was an AI system, okay, run by Claude. And somebody asked Claude, okay, who is responsible? It was a school, 100 children died, who is accountable? So that there is an element of seriousness about it. It's not all only about financial losses. This is human life at stake also. So blindly trusting AI systems, agentic systems, or any sort of automation, I think the accountability lies with the decision maker. Okay. So in this case, it is clear where the accountability lies. I mean, so I don't want to dwell more on it. Okay. Coming back to actually what is the value proposition of agentic or AI is that we get to do the creative stuff and AI gets to do the mundane stuff. So is the role reversed? So let me ask Manish first. So are engineers becoming more operators of tools and not using their brains, or are they actually liberated from the mundane stuff and getting to design broader systems? So this is like a more, spiritual question, according to me.
So yeah, I think the short answer again, they can become an operator of tools, like you said. They should not, of course. See, it depends on a few things. Like for example, one thing is clear, that think of it like 3 years, 5 years back, a DevOps engineer would spend 60%, 70%, that significant amount of his time just keeping the lights on, deployments, monitoring, this, that, and all, right? Today, that would possibly has come down to like 15-20% of his time. That means 30 to 40% of his time, given situation, plus minus whatever, is freed up. Now, there are two ways to react to that for organizations. I've got 20% bandwidth extra. I can reduce 20% workforce. Right? That's the simplest thing everyone wants to go to. okay, 20% लोगों को निकालो यहाँ से, ठीक है. But that is where I think organizations are failing themselves in the long run. The idea has to be that the bandwidth has to go into learning. It has to go into what we talked about in the initial discussion about enabling people to take design and architecture decisions, taking accountability for someone else's work, getting into reviews, getting into decision making. Organizations that are able to do that, they are setting themselves up for the long haul. Who are not, they are obviously going to fail in the long run. And there are organizations that are benefiting, and there are two ways I can see it is happening actually. You will see organizations who are reporting savings numbers. Okay. Again, as I said, it could help this year, next year. And there are organizations who are not reporting savings numbers. They are reporting basically how we are able to solve the problems from future perspective. I am designing for tomorrow. I am creating more options for tomorrow. So yeah, that's where I would say it has to go. From a perspective of what we were just discussing about the autonomous agents, right? See, we have had a concept of the way we have human workers. We've had for some time now a concept of digital worker. So while it's not still fully evolved, it's similar to the lines of what we were discussing a little while back, like each agent having a role and all. So we have a digital worker, we have an onboarding of a digital worker. We have not reached the stage of giving an employee ID to that digital worker yet, but we will soon. And the point is that digital worker I'm coming to is that 30% of the work that is liberating the human worker of, that gets accountable or measurable. And the human's time that is getting liberated has to go into more far-reaching decision points or enabling of that people. So those people. So there is a concept of, see, we used to have in software engineering a concept of talent pyramid. Now that we all know is now changing. It's no more pyramid. It has become a little bit of a diamond kind of a thing, diamond shape kind of thing, where the middle layer has to grow more because that decision-making capability is moving upwards. The mundane development job possibly might get faster. I'll not say it reduces. It goes faster, and therefore the bandwidth required is lesser. And therefore that diamond shape is important to follow and get the output that we want from a long-run perspective. That's how it.
Okay, great insights. I think the concept of having build for the future as a KPI or a KRA is a great way to measure, in fact, track progress of liberated bandwidth. Another cool concept is this digital worker having an employee ID. Does it also get a paycheck? Okay, so just asking. Anyways, so
no, that's a good idea.
so coming to Rupali, I mean, you have like large teams of engineers. I mean, the liberated bandwidth, is it? I mean, who is in? I mean, do the engineers get to do more? I mean, cool stuff like they design, architect more, or is it vice versa? They are becoming a victim of AI.
See, Pranay, I'll tell you a different perspective that I think. Whether the engineers become the operators or the designers is not their choice. It is the choice of the organization that is, building something underneath it or not. So if you give 20 disconnected tools to an engineer and then you ask, to keep on supporting different tickets without automating the things, without bringing in the right, kind of platform, and they will become the operators, right? And they what choice they have? They will become the operator. And we flipped this actually, and when we automated a lot of those things which was mundane and which was so repetitive for the engineers in my team, and then we created those golden paths and then self-services, then came the right, set of the talent that we started looking at into my team. That becomes the designers. What the designer has. So I always say, think of this scenario, Pranay, this model capability that we say, or the AI capabilities, they are the rented models. They are available to each of your competitor, right? The same model is available to all the competitors. Where's the intelligence lie then? How does it make you different from your competitor when the same set of things is available everywhere? we need to give our team, our engineers, some time back, right, from being the operators to the real designers of our company, because we know what the context of our company is, what the challenges, what the design should like. Vivek has mentioned that, okay, the architecture should never be, to the LLMs or not. So we have given back the time to the engineers as well, without taking all of those mundane tasks and then saying that you're not doing anything strategic. And then comes the real thing. Then you need to, designer of how the performance should be looking like. What is the resilience? What is the cost aspect of my organization? So I think it is up to the organizations how we are taking it. And also, I think the last thing is emphasizing on the same, coming back to the same principles of understanding the value of the platform engineering. So it is not only that, it is a replacement of DevOps, especially into the agentic AI and then agent ops. So DevOps has been replaced a little bit with platform engineering, and now platform engineering has to extend agent ops and AI ops within its own function, so that we can give back some time to the, to the business, give value to the organization as well.
Yeah, I think, couldn't agree more. It's also dependent on the organization, and as Manish also mentioned, the quickest and the easiest thing is to, okay, you have extra bandwidth. But we have also seen the companies reporting the flip side of the issue. So rather than liberating of the mundane task and getting them involved into more sophisticated, people have taken the shortcut for. So I think we have around 9 minutes left. So I want everyone to ask answer one question, okay? Not necessarily, the question is, in 5 years, what do we see a DevOps engineer actually do? Or more importantly, what do you think AI will do to the whole engineering scape? So let's start with FanCode. So in 5 years, where do you think India will win more cups? Or
hopefully, that's the hope. Vaibhav Suryanshi probably hopefully scores a century, right? So it's a question to also imagine for us, right? Like where now we are already experimenting with multiple ways where how we can go faster, go more efficient, go more maybe cost effectively. That's what your aim is essentially, right? Now in terms of like what I see at DevOps engineering evolving into, let's go back a little bit like in the past where how did this word DevOps also come through, right? Like we were discussing config managers, this, that across the board, right? There was a mismatch between what a engineer who's developing a software is doing and a person who is maybe operating that software is doing, right? But then we said, okay, they don't have to be separate. They should operate together and achieve a business objective together. Similarly, right now, the expectations from a company is changing, right? If you're just saying, listen, I'll just see your architect or maybe some Terraform scripts and this, that, business will also figure out, listen, that maybe a backend engineer could also do the same thing, right? What are you adding value over here additionally separately, right? Here, I would say people don't have to be afraid to imagine, right? You could also start getting into other domains, right? The domain which is directly maybe touching and interfacing with you, like which adds a business impact, right? Like we could, like a lot of the backend engineers always had like, listen, because of me, you got so much revenue. The DevOps engineer like, but because that revenue came because of me, right? Like you use my system. Now here a DevOps engineer can actually scale up and say, listen, I also contribute to that journey. We're no longer like a nebulous just DevOps, right? Everybody becomes an actual engineer who's designing system to solve business problems. Not just an engineer who's like, oh, you just look at machines, you just look at the business problem. Like this distinctions are changing and blurring. Like DevOps will have to obviously ensure, the maintenance systems and the insurance system is correct. But agents, when it frees up time, you have time to think more now. You can actually contribute to things which are beyond your scope also, right? So that's something I would say.
Yeah, great insight. Nikhil, sir?
Insightful. I see that in next 5 to 7 years, I would agree with the concept of the diamond, where the DevOps engineer, if we have the right skill sets enabled for that individual, this guy is going to be sitting in front of his computer and is a person who's going to be decision maker when it comes to all these agents which are going to be deployed, how they are going to impact the applications, associated business, and will be a person who is going to be a final gatekeeper to execute. That's the way I look at it when it.
Yeah, great. I mean, responsibility is going to shift to the engineers. I think that's the pattern we are seeing, Rupali.
Quickly, I'll add, I see the death of DevOps. Sorry to say this. So DevOps means developer owning its own ops. I literally don't like the idea of this, actually, after the platform engineering. So I think it is like a support function. It has become a support function, right? You build it, you own it, you run it, until the cognitive load was not this high. So right now we need to think how we create features to capability using one single platform and not, not have the concept of this DevOps engineer, which is owning the developer plus operations, but having invested in those capabilities that can support all of your product teams within the single capability, and you use AI or not AI, and there are multiple things that we have already talked. I think that should be the future, according to me.
Atmesh?
So I think this profession in general has been the most agile one, right? I mean, when we think of configuration managers to mainframe managers to DevOps to DevSecOps, and then finally to platform engineer, and then that it also adds like a couple of extra layers, right? So some platform engineer also do data engineering, right? They take care of it, the data pipelines and everything. They also build internal tools and internal platform. They're responsible for developer experience. I think one more thing that has gotten added is AI ops, right? Like as simple as that. And 5 years is like a very long time. Things are changing every 3 months, every 2 months. One person launches something, the other one launches something, and then there's so many open source libraries coming into picture that optimizes your entire code base or reduces your token. The volume of this information is so much that I think it's only going to add more and more ops into someone's portfolio. I think we should be ready to embrace that with a lot of automation. Of course, creating that entire loop. If something comes in, what to do with it, right? I think that's where most of the energies are going to be spent. When I say agile, this profession also had to do a lot of learning. The moment something new comes up, everyone in the organization looks up to you to explain or to embrace or to use. Your CTO would come to you and say, oh, this is the new thing, what to do with it, right? Your investors come, the board deck needs to have that new terminology included, right? So I think as platform engineers or DevOps engineers, we'll have to take ownership of that. We'll have to continue to learn and make sure that we embrace new and new technologies continuously. So I think not a lot is going to change if you think with that perspective. Continuous learning still happens, right? You take on more portfolios, and then you also keep on render yourself jobless. So anything that happened before needs to be automated. Anything new, you keep on learning and you keep on building on that.
Gaurav, sir.
So I'll just quickly, I think, wrap up out of time, but I also agree. Moving forward in 5 years, you'll not be having all those engineering tasks that today our engineer is performing, babysitting your production, your deployments, restarting, all this will go away. But then I probably tend to disagree that DevOps as a field will totally go away. No. We will mature more into something called as a biz DevOps, where you will be more closely integrated with your business. You would start understanding your business. Like I think I was introduced some time back, coming from the IoT space, I would see my team working very closely, trying to understand what are the new solutions, trying to do POC, productionizing them, looking at how they can actually bring in a lot of value to the business that today exists. And that is something that I look probably in, say, 5 years' time. And then that time, I don't think people will be called engineers, but they would be more like platform architects, infrastructure architects. But definitely, yeah, the engineering part will go away.
Yeah, so I am actually confused, to be honest. I am not sure where this will end up. So I have two schools of thought. One, where DevSecOps as a standard practice might just go away. We have one engineer who takes care of everything, right? He is the incident manager also, he is the engineering also, he is the infra guy also, everything included into one. That's one evolution that can happen because of the AI assisted development that is going on everywhere. The other side to look at it is that it may evolve. The things may get so complex that you enter into an era of more specialization. So you have platform engineers who do only platform engineering. There is a SRE or reliability layer who does only that. And then there is an infra layer who simply focuses on security and infra and all. I am not sure. My bet is actually on the second one, that we go into an era of more specialization rather than becoming one person doing end-to-end, which kind of leads to what you were talking about, biz DevOps, essentially, right? My hunch, or at least my take as of today, is it might go the other way around. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I think great points. I think whether all engineers will become more general physicians or become specialist neurosurgeons and cardiac surgeons is only time will tell. But definitely, the way we look at it, whether AI has created a substantial impact, whether it's sustainable, not sustainable, cost efficient or not, that also time will tell. But there is a definite trend shift happening. I think this was a great discussion. I mean, lots of insights from digital worker to digital paychecks to platform engineers to how Chalo is 600 new buses. I didn't know actually. Great. With fidelities and the likes of scale and the ability to kill an agent to AI accountability essentially lies with the human. I mean, whichever way you look at it. भस्मासुर आपने बनाया तो आप ही जिम्मेदार हो, सिंपल बात है. ओके, ऐसा वरदान मत दो तो फिर ओके भोलेनाथ को भागना पड़े फिर. ओके, so and
I am also writing a book on agentic governance with my, I mean, a lot of experience into the AI governance. Since 2015, I was the head of AI. So I think I'll just maybe keep in touch when this book launches. I think it will be coming into market next month.
Wow, that's great. That should things, and with Vivek, so I hope India wins. You are betting high on Vaibhav Suryavanshi. So I think very, very power-packed panel, okay, great insights, real-world examples, and thank you on behalf of the audience. Audience has also been wonderful, not sleeping. I could see that. Actually, they were like attentive. So that's a great panel talk after post-lunch. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, just a minute. The panel is now open for a question and answer. Anyone? Okay. Can we pass on the mic, please?
Hi, this is Prithvi from Code Karma. First of all, thanks for a very insightful session. I think kudos to everyone. I think it was very, very exciting to hear your perspectives. I think a few things that I had for you all today was, I think we spoke about agents and probably how they should have agency and who should be accountable. While we're using AI models from abroad, there's this whole push of can we buy our own hardware and start looking at open source? Because at some point, think about it. Right now, it's being served on a platter, right? It's cheap. At some point, it's going to get the cost multiplier will start taking place. So obviously, each of our organizations have a ton of data. If we start training our models with the right kind of context, what do you like? I would like to understand your point of view on that. And my second question is, everyone on the panel, probably even me, is probably the analog generation, right? We've seen the terminal and being built and stuff. And when I see the younger generation today, they're more like digital natives. So they will think AI architecture backwards, don't you think? They're thinking in their head, one of my interns blew my mind. Recently, she built something, it was which I was thinking in a different angle. But now when we talk about accountability and stuff like that, do you think they will be able to put this on a leash and maybe manage it better? I think these are two questions that I had for you all.
Yeah, great questions. So I think the first one we were debating very keenly. So Manish, you want to have a go at it? How do you think?
So I think it's a very pertinent question, something that we've been actively, I'm sure every organization is actively pursuing a path out of it. So essentially whether to use frontier models as is or try and deploy an open source model in your own hardware, essentially. And your question about cost is also valid. It's not even that it will hit, it is hitting already. We are paying models per person. The cost of model usage per person now is in some cases more than what we pay that person. Okay, so it's already hitting, so there is no question about that. We have created a plan, and we have started piloting that in the last 1 month or 1.5 months actually, not too long back. It started like a couple of months back only. What we've started doing is that we have categorized our AI users in the organization into 3 categories. All right, one is a power developer, like engineering organization. They use AI for writing code. They are the biggest consumers of tokens and this. So that is one part. On the other hand, these guys are also the guys who need the most powerful models. There are other users, let's say there are users who are, let's say marketing users, people managers who are using AI for less heavy lifting. They would create presentations, documents, papers. And then there are users who are somewhere in between. We have created 3 models. One is a completely localized model where we have gotten into some investment for some of the users where we have created laptops with GPU and deployed a 3 billion or 8 billion kind of model in the laptop so that data privacy is 100% there. The complexity of the use case is not that much, and therefore it's a couple of $1,000s kind of machine that data never leaves your machine. That's one kind of user. The other kind of user is basically where we have deployed open source models like Qwen and Llama and Gemma on hosted models, but again, depending on the user group. And the third model, which is developers, there we are continuing with the frontier models as of now, simply because we need that every month upgrade. The kind of work that they do, they continue reading that. Of course, that right now relies, and there is a question mark there from data privacy perspective, but the commitment from all of these organizations, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is Anthropic, the commitment from these guys is what we are relying on today from a contractual perspective for that group. But all 3 models are there. Depending on the user group, we are using each of them to try and control costs. That's the way we are handling it.
Sorry, I'll quickly add 2 points to what he said. I think you were talking a lot about the internal consumption. We have production applications that are running that have a lot of AI models in between. We have a lot of edge AI devices that are enabled. We have a lot of central setup where we have a lot of GPUs, and the cost hits. It hits real badly. The amount of data, if I have a video analytics kind of an application where I'm having live data stream come in from, say, 5,000, 10,000 or 1 lakh cameras, the cost hits huge. Are we completely in control? No. Do we have a proper solution? No. Are we working to what you are saying? Yes, to take it in-house, to ensure that we are not relying a lot on vendor-provided models. You must be knowing, Geo has almost, 46 exabytes of data per month, which is like huge. So we have huge amounts of data, the way we store it, the way we actually process it, the way our models are being trained. Right now, the optimization in terms of cost is nowhere. Everyone in the organization is actually working to optimize that at various levels, be it hardware or be it your model optimization. The second point that you said, or the second question that you asked is very important. So I think people of our generation, I think, and we were talking some time back, we have seen moving from Windows to Linux, we have seen Linux grow, we have seen all these virtualization, containerization layers were not there. We have burnt our hands. I think someone was talking about config management. I have been a config manager. I have done branching for 2 days straight at night. And that was a very mission, business critical activity. Today it's a 5-second job. But then when we have taken our hands dirty that way, we have learned a lot about the fundamentals. Generation today, of course, they're growing very beautifully digitally. They can give you better solutions in terms of design. But when it comes to troubleshooting, their fundamentals are not that great. So I would not rely on a young intern coming out telling me, giving me a solution for a production incident. That is something that probably I think people will have to still look at.
So I'll just add a simple thing, cost engineering also. So before there are some scale of geo that might, require different solution. But cost engineering is an aspect that we have not really learned. Have you learned that? When the cloud moment came, you remember that FinOps, the cloud, this we have seen before, right? We created the CTOs and those cloud transformation office after burning our hands on the cloud cost. And this probably is the right time that all of the engineers in this room understand what is the cost engineering. Token is the new oil, we say. Token is the new currency for you, right? I have seen in my previous experience that not everything is a model problem. Most of the things are the engineering problems and the architecture problem. You think about the things where you need a cache, simple thing like a cache. You are hitting your model just to get all the information all the time. You think about a thing that you are giving the whole API XML to your model without having a proper RAG context prompt, right? Then augment it. So, and think about the loops that I talked before. Then you're looping, and then you're saying you're worried about the cost without knowing how do you control all of these costs, right? So please do invest into the cost engineering as well. I think it relates with your architecture a lot of times, and a lot of time you can control a lot of these things with your architecture and engineering around the model. And then I think SLMs and having your own local models require a lot of context training. It might come costly as well. So and there is one thing that worked for us. Having an AI gateway, simple tasks to simple models, complex tasks to complex, simple things like that. This comes down to your architecture practices as well. So I think apart from those things, I think engineering is an important aspect on how we learn that.
Just one perspective I'll give from FanCode. I can't say we have completely solved the problem, but we have solved this problem of cost, and actually we don't even worry about which models we're using. We use Composer 2.5, whatever. So we have invested in building our own graph rack, right? Essentially, because code essentially is an AST, abstract syntax tree, right? You could actually put that as a context, and we use multiple tools. Essentially, we have built our own in-house tool where the LLM essentially is not guessing which particular line is able to generate or not generate, all previous line generate or not. We have invested heavily in graph racks and obviously in rags themselves. So a lot of context engineering work, if you invest your time in, you will then actually forget about what model is being used. You use open source, Kimi, whatever, best in class, Fable or Soul or whatever. Every company will have to engineer their own context and graph rags and AST rags to essentially bring down the token cost. And there is a lot of literature available outside. You can just go through that. I think that will help you a lot in the long run, for sure.
So I think great answers. I mean, hope it has given some perspective. So I think we can't take more questions now because we are running short. So I just want, thanks to a lovely audience. I mean, you have been really attentive, I can make out. And thanks to the most experienced panel I've been on in the recent past. I mean, lots of perspectives. I'll just leave with one thought, accountability. Okay, now we are talking about AI and next gen and generation after that and generations after that. Let's get some generations back, okay? Let's go all the way to Dwapar Yuga, okay? The Mahabharata, Kurukshetra, 18 Akshunis, 11 on this side and 7 on this side. Barring the 5 Pandavas and Abhimanyu, Ashwatthama and Kripacharya, everybody died. Who was accountable? Krishna. The accountability of that war lied with Dhritarashtra. Okay? Because, I mean, Shri Krishna had gone there with a proposal that give me 5 villages. And his son was obviously in his arrogance said that I won't give a needle point as well. Okay? So accountability, whichever be the generation, whichever be the yuga, there may be 20,000 yugas after this also. There are certain things which are lighthouse principles. Okay? Those don't change. AI, non-AI, automation, non-automation. Okay? Eventually, a human sense of right and wrong will always remain. Okay? And that is our guiding light. So there may be a lot of uncertainty about technology and AI, but there wouldn't be any uncertainty about ethics, I think. The more important thing which differentiate humans from machines is, machines don't need to worry about it, okay? Humans do. So I think accountability is my just 2 cents into a whole scheme of things. Another same war, same thing. In the end, you remember, there was a Brahmastra fired by Ashwatthama and a Brahmastra fired by Arjun, both of it. Destruction of the whole universe, Brahmand. Okay? So So very powerful astra, very, very powerful. And then one Rishi had to come in between, asked to recall. Arjun could because he was more responsible. Ashwatthama didn't even know how to recall the Brahmastra and sent it to the udder of Uttara. And Parikshit, unborn Parikshit died. So with great power comes great responsibility. Okay? If AI is giving lots of power, the people who are the decision makers and willing to give it, especially in the areas of defense, missiles, okay, bullets, okay, financial transactions also means if all of our banks' monies and investments are parked with so many account aggregators and brokers and so on, would it be fun to see the next day where some agentic AI has goofed up and your money is gone? It won't be fun, okay? Your policies are gone, your term insurance is gone. So there is a lot of things at stake. Obviously, it is bringing a lot of power, but with great power comes great responsibility. So I think the two things go hand in hand. There may be major iterations, versions, but there's one thing that we should bear in mind irrespective of the yuga. Okay? So just my 2 cents in the whole scheme of things.
Thank you so much to all our speakers for taking us into this knowledgeable panel discussion.